Hello and welcome once more to this Red Gaming Tech video with myself, Marta. As always, I'm here with the latest news from the tech world from the last 24 or so hours as of the 18th of April. Hope you guys are all enjoying your Saturday. I've spent this morning playing Final Fantasy VII Remake. It's really good. I mean, I know everyone's saying that, so that isn't a surprise, but still. Anyway, we're going to kick off today's proceedings with some news regarding the PS5 DualSense controller. Now obviously none of us know how this controller is actually going to be to actually use until, well, we have it in our hands, obviously. And the design of it has been a touch divisive amongst gamers to say the least, but we have some interesting comments from Pete Samuels, the managing director of Supermassive Games, who spoke in an interview with Game Reactor. Now of course you can find their interview linked in the description below this video. Suggest you go give it a read. So he touched on a few things, but the thing I want to talk about is his excitement for the DualSense controller and the tactile features. He said, quote, "Obviously it's really exciting for us. As you say, we've had some experience, not just with Until Dawn, but we had spent a couple of years working in VR and making some games in VR, and got to play with some stuff, including voice control in one of the VR titles that we did. You mentioned the PS5 DualSense controller and its features, and we've been having some chats about that for a little while now about how we're going to use it. The whole tactile thing, as much as we can transfer what you'd expect the character's experience to be directed back to the player, I think the better attachment you feel to the characters." So essentially what he's saying is that he's excited to get stuck in to see what they can do, how they can play around with these new features and how they can use it to improve immersion. And I feel like as long as developers go in with this sort of right attitude of like, okay, how can we use this particular feature on the controller or any of the other features on the controller, to be fair, to improve the player's experience, like just tacking it on because, hey, new and shiny thing, that's not really good. I mean, obviously the trackpad on the PS4 DualShock 4 controller didn't really see much use outside of like Killzone, which was a launch title. Didn't really see much use at all. It became kind of like just an extra button for like the map or whatever was generally what it was used for. So hopefully we can see these features being used a bit more throughout games in a less sort of gimmicky fashion, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Anyway, we're going to move over now to a bit of an update regarding Ryzen chipset drivers. Now, in case you weren't aware, perhaps this has not affected you or if you've just missed the news, there was some issues floating around with the Ryzen chipset driver recently, and AMD have released a fix for these issues, but unfortunately this fix has also caused issues of its own, at least for some people. Now, in case you're wondering what these issues actually were, basically according to a thread on Reddit, which of course you can find linked in the description below, some people were having the installation get stuck at 0% on the progress bar. However, for other people, it was seemingly successfully installed with no issues, but not completely. Eventually there'll be a pop-up saying, hey, actually, sorry about that, but we need to restart. So obviously people were a bit concerned that they thought, you know, they would think they've installed it when they actually haven't, and this could potentially cause issues in the future. And obviously AMD has pushed out a new version of the chipset driver, 2.04.04.111, just rolls right off the tongue, I'm sure you'd agree. Now, according to some users on computerbase.de, while this may have fixed the issues with the installer, which is being called error 1720, it has caused whole new issues. And according to reports, the GPIO driver, that being general purpose IO controller, isn't always updated to the latest version, and some people are reporting incorrect operating voltages and increased power consumption from the processor. Not exactly great, I'm sure you would agree, and apparently some of these issues may be faults of Ryzen Master. Now, AMD is investigating the issue after ComputerBase did flag it up with them, and obviously are asking people to send over log files. So if you are experiencing these issues that I've just described, go over to ComputerBase. You will need to get Google Translate unless you know how to read German, just to get the links of where to actually submit these to. And it will be there in the description for your perusal, the ComputerBase link, as well as the original Reddit thread. Anyway, we're going to move over to our next AMD topic, which is regarding AMD Renoir. This is specifically regarding the hard launch date, or launch window, I suppose I should say, to be more accurate, of the Ryzen 4900H. And this is according to an article from wccftech.com. Now, obviously, you can find also their article linked below if you wish to give it a look-see. But essentially what they're saying is that according to the information they have received from their sources, the availability of these parts will not happen until June 2020. So essentially, we will start to see the big laptop manufacturers start to release these machines with the Ryzen Renoir APUs on them, including the 4900H, from June to the second half of 2020. However, for the moment, ASUS's Zephyrus G does seem to have an exclusive on the Renoir APU. So essentially, we're going to see Renoir start coming out, in June, and it's going to go forward into the second half of 2020. Obviously, June is kind of like the start of the second half of 2020, so you could expect some parts to launch first and then others to come later, etc, etc. Obviously, we don't have an exact timeline of what's going to happen. This is just a rough release window of, hey, it's going to start in June and go through into the second half of 2020. Anyway, we're going to move over now to the B550 once more. Now, recently we did discuss the B550 and how, in our opinion, it is so late. But according once again to WCCF Tech, we are going to be seeing the B550 motherboards launching on June the 16th, and we will see an announcement from AMD on May the 21st. So in just over a month's time, we will finally learn exactly what is going on with B550, including pricing and all that good stuff. Now, obviously, late is definitely better than never, but I do wonder how well these are actually going to do. Tough to say, of course, as per normal. I don't have my crystal ball to hand, but I'm definitely interested to see what the skinny is for the B550. I think if the price is right, these could definitely do very well, considering that the B550 will be the first mid-range motherboards to have native PCIe 4 support. But speaking of things motherboards, we actually have something interesting for Comet Lake motherboards, that being the Z490. So essentially what we have here is a bit of an oopsie from ASUS. They have accidentally posted a listing early for their Prime Z490P and Z490A motherboards, but we do have Momomo on Twitter to thank for this initial discovery. Now, if you look at the page now, it actually is for the Z390P, but at the time it was very confusing because the text around the motherboard itself said stuff like the fact that it was still the Z390, but the motherboard itself clearly showed that it was a Z490P that was being shown in this particular image. So it does seem that someone over at ASUS definitely got their wires a touch crossed. I'm looking at the page now and it has been fixed. The image is now a Z390P, but at the time it was a Z490P, so whoops. So we can probably expect to see some more information come out about this in the next few days. Tough to gain much from this given that the text is obviously not correct with the image itself, but still looking forward to learning more about what's going on with the Comet Lake S platform. So we're going to move on now to our next topic, which is regarding Crysis Remastered. Now, you guys have undoubtedly heard the news, but I just wanted to cover this because we were covering the rumours that it was going to be remastered, so it seemed only fair to me that we do just quickly cover the update that yes, it has been officially confirmed by the Crysis Twitter account that we will be seeing Crysis Remastered come to PC, PS4, Xbox One, and it will also come to the Nintendo Switch as well. So as I said, just very quickly wanted to update. I think this is going to go down very well indeed. Looking forward to seeing how it actually looks and plays and what ray tracing we're going to see implemented and all that sort of stuff, because Crytek did release a demo shortly a while ago that was a sort of platform agnostic ray tracing that could be used on Nvidia or AMD. So could be very cool. We'll have to wait and see. So we're going to finish things up on a really weird note. yeah, I'm just going to say weird. It's something regarding a Sony patent. So essentially they have patented a robotic gaming companion that reacts to your emotions. And it is a actual trademark that has been listed on the US Patent and Trademark Office website. And as you can see in the link below this video and on screen, it is depicted as a sort of floofy little guy that sits next to you on your sofa while you play video games. So the patent mentions a few interesting things, like how the robot is going to be quote-unquote autonomous, to the point where it could sit beside you of its own will rather than you picking it up and placing it next to you. So honestly, this whole thing is really weird, and it feels like this shouldn't be a real thing. Reading this article, I genuinely feel like I've slipped into some sort of alternate dimension, because the patent also describes the robot as having a, quote, feeling deduction unit, which basically can detect and act upon your emotions and can evaluate, quote, feeling indexes such as joy, anger, love, and surprise, and even has a biological sensor that can track your heart and sweating rate. However, Sony said later on in the patent, quote, it is expected that the user's affinity with the robot is increased and motivation for playing a game is enhanced by the robot viewing the gameplay next to the user and being pleased or sad together with the user. Further, regarding not only the game but also a movie, television program, or the like, it is expected that the user may enjoy content more by viewing the content with the robot as compared to viewing it alone. The weirdness doesn't stop there though. It also has something called a love index, which is affected by how you actually speak to the robot in moments of stress. So, for example, if the robot says, hey, I need to be charged, and you don't charge it quickly, it will apparently decide that you don't love it anymore and react in a similar fashion. And if it feels unpopular, it will no longer empathize with you during gameplay. And essentially, if you're like mean and like getting tilted like I tend to do, it will probably be not as nice to you anymore. I guess Sony's trying to make people less toxic, I guess. Now, obviously, this is just a patent. This does not mean that this will ever see the light of day. And I don't think it will, because who would willingly buy this? I'm just thinking, like, who is the audience for this thing that you'd have to probably spend a lot of money on? So this is probably just a pattern that they're playing around with. Maybe they'll use certain parts of it for certain things, or maybe there will be an actual weird demonic Furby that'll sit next to you on the sofa when you're playing Sekiro or whatever and getting really tilted, like I tend to do whenever I play that game. Yeah, bit of an odd one. The patent page isn't actually loading for me at the moment, so apologies for that, but hopefully it will work for you guys. I'll put it there for your perusal regardless. Anyway, that is me done for this video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, your support is highly appreciated. Do remember to like and subscribe. It does help out a great deal, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.